Hey guys, I think this is the number one problem and the number one change that a lot of people can make in terms of their thinking, their perspective, if they want to dramatically increase their chance of succeeding in Nofap. Now, this is something that I've definitely fallen into the trap of myself in the very beginning, or just in general. It's more of like an overall success mentality, not just Nofap, but I see a lot of people get into Nofap or the gym, or stopping any type of bad compulsions, or try to succeed working out or with a girl or anything. So in this case of NoFap, I see way too many guys. They have a very short-term perspective on things. They believe that if they, try it for one, two, or even three times, and they relapse on the second day or the third day, or they make it so far, whoa, whoa, like they make it to the seventh day and they relapse, that they're a failure. They think that they've messed up, that they failed, and they're just so hard on themselves. And with that type of thinking, of course, it's extremely discouraging. And then you tell me if you ever gone down this route, but it's like, oh man, I failed. It's been 7 days, and like, screw it. Like if I already relapsed, I'm just gonna go on a binge. So that entire day is just gone. All plans out the door, and then you're just there at midnight with that blue light on your face, and you're just like, I don't even know how many times that was. So we're just like, dang, that was a lot, right? And so whether that's the gym, right? You're like, oh man, like New Year's, you start off and then you just fall off and you just give up. No, the number the number one way I'd say, or the number one perspective to have while undertaking NoFap, if you're serious about it, if you're dabbling, that's fine. Like you're just feeling it out. You can fail or you can relapse. That's completely fine. But if you're serious about it and you're like, I don't know what's missing, I don't know what's going wrong, it's just your perspective on things, to have a much longer perspective on NoFap. Here's the really big shift. Think of it as think of it as whether you play games or you watch sports. Like let's say, for example, Lebreezy, right? LeBron, right? So he has a high score of like 120 points in a game, right? That doesn't mean he is the best of all time or the best ever because he's done that. It means he had a really great game. And that's an indicator of the level of player that he is, but that doesn't define him. What defines him is his average score across time. And in that same way, the parallel of that analogy from basketball or any type of game and sport like that, bring it over to NoFap, is that your high score or your streak doesn't make or break you. Whether you keep that streak, yeah, like big deal. It's not a big deal, okay? Or if you break that streak, again, it's not that big a deal. It's a nice indicator. It's a high score that you had that one moment in time, but what lets you know if you're successful or if you're like really having an impact and an influence on your life is your average score. Let's say that before you would, you would PM or O every, let's say 2 days, right? Or even daily, okay? And then you increase that to 4 days on average. And then you increase that to 2 weeks. Like that's huge, right? And then you keep going, and this could take months or this could take years. Next thing you know, your average is every 2 months. And then 4 or 5 years down the line, you've gotten it down to only once every 6 months. Like, are you kidding me? That's awesome. Okay. That is a lot more accurate of a way to look at this in a successful way and to have that success mindset towards NoFap. So many of you guys are thinking so narrow minded about this high score. It's not about the high score. It's about your average score in between sessions. So let's say, maybe after 10 years that you only do it once every year. Like that is a non-issue, right? Just like when I was working as a mental health clinician at a Los Angeles based center for alcohol as well as other types of substance abuses, they were on very hard substances, like mostly heroin and meth. Those are extremely hard. NoFap and those drugs, they're not even in the same league, right? And so just even watching them, that's even more hardcore. NoFap, yes, it has a lot of the same tendencies, but if you approach it in the same way that you think about it long term like that, like it took me 5, 10, 15 years to build this habit. And if it's going to take me in the course of 1 to 5 years or even 10 years to change this, it's completely appropriate. Like so many guys just give up after a week, 2 weeks, or even a month. You're going to give yourself a couple weeks or month to change course of something that's been in the works for months, years, or even decades. How does that even make any sense? How's that even fair on yourself or what you're trying to do? Like, just think about that. It's not. And so, in that same mindset, by that same rationale and logic, when you think about it long term like that, you think, I'm going to do this for life. Again, this is for the serious people. I'm going to do this for life. It took many years to develop this habit, so I'm willing to put in many years to fix this habit. Okay, and also I see this as a mindset of the averages, focusing the average of duration between each session, not the high score. The high score is cool. It's like nice. It's bragging rights, right? It's like, oh, I did 100 points in a game. Cool. But typically in a game, what's your score? Like if you follow basketball at all, you would totally get that analogy. Another thing is maybe some of you guys may feel that angst, that anxiety, and kind of that dread, like right? It's gonna take 3 years. It's gonna take 5 years. Okay, yes. If you think like that, that seems like so much work, and you're going uphill. It's uphill battle. But I'll tell you what, it will be difficult, right? But you know what would be more difficult? If in 5 or 10 or 20 years you still haven't done anything and you still have this problem. And the bigger thing is that in 5, 10, 20 years, you're gonna be 5, 10, or 20 years older anyways, right? Unless you know somehow to morph and change time that I'm not aware of. If you are, please let me know. Like I should have studied that instead of studying psychology for my grad program, right? So that's the thing. It's like time's gonna pass anyways. In 5 years, you will be 5 years older. The question isn't whether you want to spend that time. The question is how you want to spend that time, because that time will be spent anyways. So in 5 years, 10, 20 years, in 20 years will pass. what will you do in that 20 years? Will this still be a problem of yours in 20 years? Or would you have already resolved or been working on that? And then along, you could still go about your life. It's not like that's the only thing that you're doing. So that's kind of just like my case on the most important type of mindset to shift yourself and to help yourself really succeed in NoFap or just any area of your life when you're really trying to be successful with it, right? Shift yourself to, instead of a short-term thing, a long-term, and think about the average of it. Overall, are you progressing? Are you regressing? Are you going backwards? Or are you kind of staying the same? If you're going forward, that's great. Like, keep going. That's a positive sign and a positive direction. When you have a relapse, take that as information, new information, to make adjustment and changes so that you can continue to move forward at a better rate. That's a good way to think about it, okay? So yeah, that was my little tangent right there. I hope for you guys starting out that it was helpful. And I do this because I think it's really necessary. I got my screen right here, but I think it's really necessary as a mental health professional, especially being a guy, being an Asian guy. I feel like many are struggling with this. Many people are gamers, just guys in general, gamers, and this is a problem. So as a mental health clinician, we use this manual called the DSM-5, Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Psychiatry, the 5th edition. And that's basically in the US, like the official book to diagnose disorders. And it actually has not made it into the DSM-5 yet, because that's how in a way advanced this type of stuff is. Medical research takes many years in order to show that it's legit, and then after that several more decades to show that there's a lot of different studies to show like, yes, this is a really official thing. And then the insurances then kind of take it in and they're like, okay, you have decades of information, but you know what, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to wait decades in order for them to kind of figure it out and then for me to finally do something. I see this as a really big problem, which is all this information that I put out there should not be taken as my professional advice, but rather my personal opinion. Okay, this is not scientifically validated or anything, but in my personal opinion and kind of the things that I know and how I feel about this, I think it's a really big issue. And this is why I'm addressing it right here. I'm putting my face out there so other people can see that I'm a real person and I'm working on this too. And I want to set the tone as well as the model so that other people wouldn't be so afraid to talk about it or admit that this is a really big issue. Just like Terry Crews. Holla. Yeah, he was a really good role model in this. But anyways, I hope this was helpful. I will see you all in the next video. Deuces.